Crissi Cochrane. Welcome to Beyond the Page.
Thank you for having me.
We have a great interview with you in the printed magazine, and I feel there were just a few other questions I wanted to ask you. Maybe just a little bit aside from what Jen had written about you, and mainly I'm really interested in obviously you being a transplanted musician, but starting up the Soul City collective with your husband. So give me just a kind of quick run back of how did our music scene and Mike luck out to have you in here and doing great things?
Well, when I lived out in Halifax, my husband, Mike Hargraves, was in a band called Mishu, and they used to tour all the time. So I got to know him whenever he was playing shows on the East Coast. A roommate of mine sometimes also booked shows, and they would crash at my apartment. So I decided one year I wanted to, return the favor and go crash on someone else's floor in Windsor. And so on a whim in February of 2010, I decided to come and see what Windsor was all about. And it was right around the time that Fog Lounge had won the award for Best Live Music Venue in Canada. So there was a lot of excitement and buzz, and the scene was just really exciting. And people were so welcoming, like, wow, you came from Halifax to here to check out what Windsor has? And I was like, yeah, it seems like that's what people do out east. They kind of want to find a foothold in Ontario. But for me, Toronto was way too big of a city. So I fell in love with Windsor. I didn't even know that it was next to Detroit. I literally was coming down the overpass and I saw the two skylines and thought, is Windsor secretly really huge? So definitely consult your maps and invest in public schools so that we know geography. But I fell in love with Windsor right away. And so I went back to Halifax and worked 2 jobs to save up enough money to take the train to Windsor and call this my home.
Were you involved in music collectives back there? And is that kind of what pulled the music collective together here? Or was that something that was kind of a brainchild of you and Michael?
That's a great question. There were a lot of music collectives out there that I adored, but I was on the outside of. Or I might occasionally collaborate. One was called Food, Clothing, Shelter. They were out of New Brunswick. And the roommate I mentioned before, he had a group called Tumbleweed Entertainment, where he would just do booking for a bunch of artists within a collective. And Mike, on the other hand, had a very different industry experience of actually being signed to major labels. And so he learned a lot being in that world, and I learned a lot in mine. And then we kind of merged the 2 ideas together to create Soul City Music Co-op. So all the artists get to keep all of their royalties. We're not taking anything away from anybody, but you get to enjoy all of the benefits of being on a roster and having just like a group of people that you can lean on for support or advice or mentoring and go on tour together. And yeah.
So kind of 2 questions coming out of this, the mentoring and being a group that leans on each other. Mm-hmm. The music industry gets harder and harder. So as a group, leaning on each other is really important. You guys share a lot of information. I mean, recording and studio wise to kind of like raise the bar.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I got to learn over my years as an independent artist was how to do an independent radio campaign. So that's something that we offer to the artists too, is just like making sure their music is available to CBC, Campus Community Radio, and like any of the FM stations in town that play local music. Anytime someone wants to write a media release, like I had to write them in school because I took a music business program, and it was one of our assignments was learning how to write press releases. So I feel like there's a bit of a marketing and business sort of background that I'm able to bring and kind of help artists with just the back end marketing of things and making things look professional. And yeah.
So as a group, you guys are all experienced musicians coming together. Are you trying to pull in younger musicians? Are you doing classes or offering those sort of information nights?
That's a good question. We've wanted to do that, but I think because we're mostly just in the trenches of our own careers and parenting and life challenges, that we haven't been able to do any big community offerings. But we do always make ourselves available if anyone has any questions about, where do I play in town, or do you have any contacts for booking in this other city, or how do I write a grant? Then we try to just help out as much as we can. Because we've all been so lucky to have all kinds of people support us in our music careers without ever taking anything from us. So it feels like a great way to just share all the resources that we have, because it's kind of cutthroat out there.
No, it's great. I mean, obviously in the photo world, things are a little bit different, but you get into those collectives and people try and help the whole group rise up, get better, give the information around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important. Within that cooperative and the collective, there's stuff separate from the business and just that end of it. And you mentioned kind of collaborating with some of those groups out west. When we talk about the experienced musicians that you are playing with, these aren't just like, they aren't the run-of-the-mill kind of city. Like, these guys are great. It's all these people that you play with. Is that collective, do they help you write sometimes? Is there collaborative efforts that maybe go, I don't want to say unnoticed, but maybe uncredited, where it's like, oh, we've talked about this, we almost like kind of workshopped it, but that became a song. Is there a song that maybe represents that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I in particular like to lean on Brendan Scott Friel for songwriting input, because he is such a master craftsman when it comes to writing. So I've run things by him and said, is there anything that doesn't land or is sticking out to you, or is there any opportunity to say something different? And he's really helpful in that way. And then another artist, now he's not in Windsor anymore, so sadly he's an alumnus of the label, but Dane Roberts has helped a lot with producing. He was a co-producer on a song on my new EP, as well as a song I put out a few years ago. And we've also just done like collaborative songwriting. Like back in the pandemic, there was a track called Can We Go Back that I had my name on. But Dane Roberts and Austin DiPietro and Mike Hargraves all had cuts on the shaping that sound and creating that all together. So yeah, behind the scenes, there is a lot of co-writing and leaning on one another and asking for input, and people saying, hey, I want to write with you. Like, let's get together and make that happen. Yeah.
I think every music genre kind of has a little bit of that, where the groups will kind of share things. But I think that you guys are creating something that has a little Windsor sound to it, and I think that kind of bleed over in the writing, or at least the influences. I mean, you named 4 musicians there, and in those 4 musicians, there's probably 4 bands that each of them are also in.
Totally.
So the web, or as they say, the Windsor Tangle.
Yes, the music tangle. Yeah.
And thick. And is there something that you are kind of aspiring to do here in Windsor, to either blow up kind of your career or the Soul City Collective? Is there kind of a next step?
It's funny. Typically, Mike is the guy who comes up with the big ideas of, oh, we should have this event, we should do this project. And then I'm like the little person who goes, okay, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to send the emails and do all the behind the scenes stuff. But I do feel like someday it would be really cool if someone helped create a Windsor music office. There are a lot of these music industry associations throughout Canada, but there isn't really one in Ontario. Music Ontario has just recently started, but it's very Toronto focused. Almost all of the events that they do are out of Toronto, and then Southwestern Ontario is just on its own. And it's amazing what opportunities a regional music office can generate. Like, that's like what I'm talking about as far as being a hub where you can show up and say, I need help with this, I need help with that. And there's people who will give you advice. And there's resources like there'll be a printer and a fax machine and a library of local music that you can check out. And if you need help with writing grants, like we've got someone who can do that. And they can also work with the city to have different initiatives, like maybe hold music locally is all local music instead of just Muzak. Like, there could be all kinds of little opportunities to get more music into the lives of everyday Windsorites. So that's kind of my little dream, is that someday someone might start a Windsor music office.
Sometimes there needs to be more of a connection between the people that are, giving the money or creating those events, and then the artists that are actually producing or participating in it.
Totally.
Sometimes the one doesn't see the ideas of the other. But No, I think that's a great idea. I'd
Yeah.
love to see that,
Yeah, someday.
like in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for this.
My pleasure.
We good on that one? Absolutely. All right.
Sweet, we're knocking these out.